What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Start, Build, Grow Show. In this episode, I'm riding solo again, and we are continuing on my series on how I built my roofing company. And today we're talking about startup mode again, but we're going to be focusing on how we got our first $1 million in sales. So stay tuned.
JobNimbus is a fully customizable back office solution.
Track leads, jobs, tasks from one easy-to-use software.
And with the largest ecosystem of integrated partners, if we don't do it, we have a friend who does.
Learn how the #1 back office system in roofing
can help you be efficient, be organized, be professional, and be profitable.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
All right, everybody, welcome back in. And if you've watched the first episode, thank you for that. If you haven't, if you're just joining in, we did the first session. I did another solo episode where I kind of went into really heavy detail on exactly how I started my roofing company, how I got funded, and how we got the whole whole process and everything started. So if you haven't, definitely tune in and check that one out. But we're still in startup mode. So if we're jumping right back into the story, we are still in startup mode, and we started the company in the middle of the year in 2010, and we got to a little over 500,000 in sales in our first year. And we had just started. One of the things I mentioned is one of the first things I did, and I think a lot of roofing contractors might wait a little too long for this because maybe there's fear, maybe they just don't have the budget for it. But I hired an admin right away. I learned that early on, way before I got into roofing. And having an admin or having, someone who was really organized and detailed and process driven was so important in the startup phases of our business, but it wasn't everything. So in this episode, we're going to kind of dive more into as we're getting going and as we're starting production and getting sales done and how we brought in a partner and those sort of things. So as I left off last time, I mentioned that, I had an admin, my mom, who was working with me, who was our office manager, and who was played a huge role in this story. But she got really busy as we were getting busy in the company, and she brought on my sister Bree as an admin or kind of an assistant for her. And fairly quickly, we realized that she had a lot of potential, and she really started just really executing on every task we gave her, every project, every challenge, every task we gave her. She did it, and she did it above and beyond our expectation and just mastered it and got better and better and better. And she was very process driven, very organized. And I think it was vitally important to understand and realize that, because as we're starting roofing companies, we have to learn, right? I had to learn, and I'm still learning, what leadership is all about, what it means to be a chief executive officer of a business, how to hire people, how to find talent, how to develop talent, how to grow people. And I was so blessed to have my sister who, her story is, when she came on, she was essentially unemployable. She had just gotten out of rehab for the third time. And I remember that was very difficult for me personally and for our family. We're very close. Maybe knows my family. We're very close. And that was a really, really tough time for all of us. Parents got divorced. My sister kind of went through a lot of challenges there. And she was, she would just get out of rehab and was cleaning up her life and getting sober. And it was an incredible time. And we just kind of needed some help. So we just threw her in there. And it was definitely by the grace of God that he kind of put us all together in this environment, because she quickly became a great asset in the organization. And to this day, she's a huge asset and still with the company. But going back to that time, this is the first full year, right? first session of startup was half a year. We started in like May. This was the next full year. It was end of January, and we were, and we didn't hit as good numbers as we wanted to. Again, remember I talked about the funding. I had a little bit of money, but that was quickly running out. And we were burning through that really quickly. I had payroll, I had an admin, we bought a truck, a couple of trucks. We hired a service technician to do repairs. So we bought a truck for him. We had him on salary on staff. And then we had two admins, and I had brought on my business partner. And obviously we were both trying to make some sort of income. And essentially early on, and I think a lot of us do this, and I think it's kind of recommended, is our income should be, kind of minimal as an owner. I think a lot of times, my instinct or some of our instincts might be to, well, I got a roofing company, I own a business, so I get paid what I'm worth, and all these little things you tell yourself in your head. But the reality is I had to minimize my life enough to where I can take as little as possible to live, to make sure my bills are paid, to then put everything back into the business. So what we did, I brought in a business partner, and my business partner, I guess I'll press into that a little bit more, is, I think I shared a little bit on the last one too, but bringing in my business partner, one of my best friends. We're very different people, which is great for setting yourself up for successful partnerships. Partnerships can be very difficult. They can make or break a business. And I've met a lot of people who've had bad experiences and who will not ever have a partner. And I've met companies, and I've worked with companies that have partners that do incredible things. And I've been, blessed to build a great company and have a lifelong best friend and business partner that our lives are integrated together. Our kids are growing up together, and it's just, it's an awesome environment. And I think one of the keys to that is we weren't the same type of person. We weren't, both like visionary, like type A, dominant type of personalities. We were very different. He's very more organized and really good at management and completing tasks. And I'm very high level vision and creating up ideas. So putting those two things together was a good recipe early on for us to be successful. But one of the most important things that I think contributed to us to getting that first $1 million is, we were kind of, strategically planning out the business. We figured that, well, both of us are good at sales, so we're going to sell as much as we can. We hired some administrative help and some assistants. We had Debbie and Bree on board, so they can help with all the office stuff, all the paperwork, the invoicing, the billing, the processing of invoice, outgoing, incoming, some marketing stuff, like whatever we could have them do, production management, all the things that we could have them do. We figured if we had them do all those things and we just focus on sales, we could generate enough cash, enough sales, and enough cash flow to then grow the business. And eventually we can work our way out of sales. But that was the key, is we knew that we needed to fund the company, because we started with that 40 grand cash, and that we went through that real quick. With hiring people, we were pretty much out of that by the time the second year came around. So we knew we had to sell roofs to make decisions. So not only were we both selling roofs, we did also start building a sales team. So we built our sales team. And how do we do that? Through our network. We found people and connected with people that we either knew from other companies. We knew that we're in the industry. We grew up in the area. So we found people that, are connected with people online, maybe social media. And the more we put ourselves out there that we're in roofing, we have a roofing business, and what our vision, what we're trying to accomplish, the more conversations we had with people. And that led to, connecting with people to getting them to be interested enough to come on board and sell roofs with us. So, we built a sales team, and that was up and down. I think we started with 2 or 3 guys, a couple canvassers and ourselves and a couple other guys that were selling roofs for us. And one in particular, I brought on right away in the business, and we, the idea was he was going to be our sales manager, and he and I had worked together at a previous company, and he was going to be our sales manager and help hire and train and build salespeople out. And unfortunately, values didn't quite align, and a situation came up where, that individual was running deals on the side and was taking money directly out of the company to kind of fund his own interest in his own deal, and almost put us out of business in the first few months of our second year in business. And it was devastating because this is someone I had trusted, I'd been with a long time, I'd known for a while. And again, it's hard to talk about this because one, it's a public forum, and I never want to, displace anybody or put anybody down. And I can only look at myself and figure out what did I learn from the situation. But in this particular situation, I believe that one, maybe there's some uncertainty in his belief in myself as a leader, as someone that can actually create a company that's successful. Plus, greed, maybe personal circumstances or a little bit of greed led him to make some poor decisions that ended up stealing money directly from the company, stealing opportunities directly from the company. And luckily I found out through a kind of a random way, but I found out what was going on and I let him go right away. So within the first few months of a business, my entire sales team was gone. I let him go, and he had a couple of people that were working with him, and let them all go because it was just like, we're not doing business this way. So went back to the drawing board, and same process, finding people we knew. And I had a partner, so we were both selling. So we knew we could sell roofs. We're like, this is interesting because I've always asked myself this question when making a business decision as to what's the worst case scenario. Okay, what's the worst that can happen? What's your failure mechanism, or how is this going to fail? What's my worst case scenario? And in this particular situation, I knew I could sell roofs. I knew I was good at selling roofs, and I knew I was passionate about the business we're trying to build, and I knew my partner could sell roofs. So our worst case scenario was we sell roofs, we keep a few people, our family members employed, and we survive and we live and figure it out. So for us, that wasn't that bad of a worst case scenario. So we kept moving forward. We kept pushing forward. And so we were selling roofs. And again, we started bringing on more people and kind of went through some guys and brought on some canvassers. And yeah, we didn't have marketing. We didn't have much marketing or anything. We didn't have any money. We didn't have a big budget for that. So we had to knock doors and just use our personal networks to try to sell roofs and try to get this business off the ground. And one of the things, I guess, speaking of marketing, I throughout this story, I really want to kind of highlight maybe some mistakes and different things we make, because as you're out there learning and maybe connecting with some of the pieces of my story, early on, I knew, gotta have a website, right? Gotta have a website. That's important. It's marketing. I had a degree in marketing. Even anybody knows that, right? Gotta have a website. So one of my canvassers, one of our buddies, he had a buddy that does websites, and he would do it for really cheap. So we're like, hey, we don't have much money. We don't have a budget. We need a website. Let's go ahead and do that. So we bought the URL. Well, we didn't buy the URL. We hired him to build us a website. He bought the URL, which is the domain name, the website address. And he built the website. It was clunky. It wasn't great. Wasn't doing anything really SEO, but we had a website. And this was close to the same time my partner was getting married, and I was getting ready. I was hoping to get married, and he was hoping to get married, and we, I'll get into that piece of it a little more later because I'm trying to stay on the timeline, but it's hard to say exactly. So let's go to elaborate on different lessons that we learned. But that lessons, we built a website. We already got to do it as cheap as possible, and I'll pick that story up a little bit later. But we built a website. We had a little bit of marketing going. Had a website, but we came to a crossroads. We came to, a decision, right? In our market, wintertime, it gets cold and it's hard to roof. It's hard to build a roofing company. It's hard to knock doors. And when it's cold out, it's snowy out, there's very little daylight. And we knew, man, we were running out of that cash flow, that capital really quick. And we had to do something. We had to do something to generate some revenue to grow the business. And we weren't that established. We didn't have a ton of money. We didn't have a lot of marketing in place. And I got a phone call one day from a previous good friend of mine in the industry that I had known, I had worked with in the past, and just so happened to be associated with a company that I had left that I used to sell for. And there was a big storm that happened in Kansas in 2011. And this was, a pretty good sized hailstorm in a market that hasn't really been hit with hail a ton. And there was an opportunity, and he presented an opportunity for me to kind of mobilize my company and go out and sell roofs out there for a while during this, kind of the winter and spring before season kind of ramped up back here in Colorado. So We delineated and talked about it and decided, we were in a position in life where, I wasn't married at the time. I had just kind of started dating my now and current wife, obviously, but we had just started dating, and, we're kind of in this startup mode, just trying to build and figure out our business. And, we were kind of in a place in life that I was like, you know what, we've got to fund this business somehow. Okay. I couldn't just call buddies. I couldn't find a way. It wasn't it was wintertime. It wasn't a fresh storm. It was, the stars weren't aligning for us to just scale this thing and make enough money to keep our staff and keep everybody going. So we decided that we're going to mobilize, and my business partner, myself, and we put 3 other guys together that we had already kind of started working with. And some of the guys hadn't quite committed to working with us. And we were like, hey, we're going to go build a little sales team. We're going to go out to Kansas, and we're going to set up a sales team and work for another company for, the idea was 3 to 4 months. So we did that. We went to Olathe. We, maybe some people had done the storm chasing thing. We went there, and we found this townhouse to rent. And I think it was like 7 or 8 of us staying in one townhouse, sharing bedrooms, sleeping on, air mattresses, some people were sleeping like under the stairs. We were just hustling, doing whatever we could to minimize our expenses. And we got there, and all we did was go out and knock doors every day and sell as many roofs as possible. And we were able to hire and bring on, we had some canvassers that helped us when we couldn't knock, or we had canvassers, but everybody was canvassing. It was just knock doors and sell roofs. That was the idea. And an underlying piece to this story was, yes, at the time I had just, started dating my now wife, and I wanted to propose, and I did not have the money in my roofing company. We were just getting started, and I could not afford a ring. I had no credit. Remember the whole story about losing my bit? Like, I had no credit. Like, I didn't know how to accomplish that. So part of my mission was, one, if I'm going to go work for another company, if I'm going to kind of uproot myself for a certain period of time, that I've got to make enough money to not only have enough capital to put back into the roofing business, but I also wanted to break off just enough for myself to live at the minimal expenses that I'm living, but I wanted to, buy that ring. So those are my goals, right? I was very goal-oriented, and my goal was to, spend 3-4 months max, sell as many roofs, close as many roofs as possible, get enough capital. I wasn't taking any of the commission for myself. I was basically taking, me and my partner committed, like, all the commissions that we can make off of this situation, we can use that money to then put back into a roofing company to grow the roofing company. So that was the decision that we made. And that was how we essentially got our second round of funding. Roofing, it doesn't just happen overnight. You don't just start a roofing company and all of a sudden your flow and cash is just everywhere. I know you see a lot of success stories and stuff, but there's a lot more companies that struggle. There's a lot more companies that fail than succeed. And it's because it's extremely hard to manage cash, to have enough money to grow your business. So that's what we did. We traveled. We spent it ended up being about 6 months total. After a couple months in, we started alternating back and forth. So he would be there for a week. We'd go like a week on, week off, 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, those sort of things. That way we can work on the company locally here and try to sell roofs and hire people and build that up here locally in Colorado. And then we were driving back and forth and or flying back and forth to go work that storm there. And somehow we managed to do that. We managed to sell enough roofs and close enough. And at this point, we were responsible for doing all our sales, all of our supplementing, collecting it, like doing the whole cradle, right? The whole deal. And we had a 5-person team, and we went out there and we did pretty well. We sold a few $1 million in that, but that was on another company's book. Like, it was not registering on our company as we're growing our business. So the only thing that registered in our company was the commissions that we took. And he and I had full commission that went back in the company, and our other team, they had to make commissions. So we negotiated where we had a small piece of everything that our team sold. And that's what kind of went back to the company and made it worthwhile for the whole company to be doing this. And a lot of lessons to be learned there. One, we had to do what it took to get enough cash flow to then continue to chase. I had to do what it took to chase my dream, to build my business, to grow, to fund the business that I wanted to grow, because I wanted to grow fast. I wanted to grow quickly. I wanted to build a team, and I had this vision of how it would look and how we can get to, $1, $3, $5, $10 million and build a big company and be one of the best in town. And I knew I needed people. I knew I needed sales. I knew I needed a lot of things. And I knew it took a lot of cash to do that. So I had to do what I had to do that. And we made sacrifices. We lived elsewhere and managed my relationship at that point. But I also learned what it took as a salesperson to be completely responsible for generating your own leads, selling your own deals, managing your own deals, doing your own supplementing, collecting the checks, and doing all that as quickly and efficiently as possible. So the experience that my partner and I got doing that, little did we know, became a huge catalyst in us leading and hiring and training and developing other salespeople, because we knew what it took. We knew the ins and outs of what it was like to be in the weeds as a roofing salesperson. Because a roofing salesperson / project manager, if you're doing the whole process, it's a lot of work. There is a lot of work. It's long hours. It's long days. It's many days, and there's a lot of stress and challenges involved in doing that. So it gave us an incredible experience, which I believe that ended up helping us with our leadership in being able to connect with and hire other salespeople. And because we had that experience, we ultimately got a lot more respect from our sales team, because we can relate to them. We knew what it was like to be in that environment, and we were alongside with them, working alongside, selling with them. So there was a huge takeaway. Another huge takeaway there was getting that experience. And I think, what that brings me to is the first year, the first $1 million is a rite of passage. Okay. There's not a step-by-step blueprint, right? Yes, I'm a business coach. I run the Roofing Academy, and we have hundreds of hours of content, and we've built an entire program. Our entire existence is dedicated to helping companies start, build, and grow roofing companies. We give you all the tools, all the spreadsheets, all the training, not only for you as an owner, but all your team. We have admin training, we have sales training, we have production management training, we have hiring and onboarding, HR training, marketing training, leadership training, all the things you can possibly need to build a great and systemize your business. But what I can't teach is that hands-on rite of passage training that you get as the proverbial school of hard knocks would teach you. Okay, it's amazing. Like, we built our program to help accelerate someone's growth. You can go from 0 to 1 to 3 to 5 really quickly and have a very systemized, organized business where you stay in control of your life the whole time. That's great. That's what we do. But you still have to be willing to do whatever it takes to achieve your dreams. Okay, you have to be willing to do everything that you possibly can to accomplish your goals. And, yes, there's amazing, easy buttons, and there's things that we can help you with. But if you don't go through certain things, you're not going to learn what you need to learn to be a leader, to be an entrepreneur, to learn how to become a CEO of your own business. So there's a certain rite of passage. And I say that, and I spend time talking about that, because I encourage anyone out there listening to this to manage your expectations and know that it's okay to go through challenges. It's okay to struggle. It's okay, to have to kind of go through the fire a little bit, because that's what's conditioning you to become the best version of yourself, the best leader that you can be. It's not going to be easy the whole way. So constantly learn, constantly grow, and get better. So that was a huge takeaway. We learned a lot, and there wasn't a specific systematic way for me to say, do this, do this, do this, check this box, and then you have a roofing company. You just got to jump into the fire and go. Jump off the bridge and start building your wings. And I can't stress that enough, because you are now an entrepreneur. You're in control of your own destiny, and you have to just be willing to dive in and put in the work to figure it out. You got to be able to do all the elements of your business. You got to be able to sell roofs, produce roofs, learn how to run P&Ls, learn how to operate and understand the cash flow, get uncomfortable and doing all the things, wear all the hats. You got to know enough to be dangerous enough to then find the person that can do it better than you, right? So that's a rite of passage. And I think everyone kind of goes through that in your first year, or not necessarily your first year, but your first $1 million. To make $1 million in roofing, you just got to hustle. I wish I had a better example, but you just got to hustle. we had different opportunities and we had to make different decisions. Not all of them are great, but going to Kansas wasn't the best financial decision because it kind of took away from our growth and our opportunities here locally. But what we learned as salespeople and as leaders, and the tenacity that we developed and the strength of overcoming that we developed, we've been able to use those tools ever since in our careers, myself and my partner. So that first $1 million is really all about tenacity, and it's all about, going through the rite of passage and being willing to do whatever it takes to sell that $1 million. You got to be willing to do it yourself. Or if you're going to bring a couple people along, great. But you got to understand how much it's going to cost to do that. So as we start to land the train a little bit, we were able to sell, I know me personally, I was able to do just shy of 500,000 in 4.5 months, sell, build, and collect, and close, and manage a company in another state, going back and forth and maintaining a relationship all at the same time. It was a lot of work, but I got it done, and I made enough money to then help fund the company and set ourselves up for the rest of that year. So in year 2, we had ambitious goals. We wanted to go hard and go as strong as we can in year 2. And lo and behold, we got a little hailstorm in the middle of summer. And this was our second year, our first full official year in business. So after we did that, tour or whatever you want to call it, where we all went and traveled and chased the storm, we came back, had a little hailstorm, and went back to work here in Colorado locally. And one of the key things I did when I got connected with our vendor, remember the story started with, I didn't have credit. I couldn't get materials. I couldn't get a vendor, right? So we had to kind of build that relationship up. And I was able to connect with a vendor here locally. I built a relationship, and he was able to give me a small little credit line. And we're able to use that to kind of build up and build our credit up. But the relationship was important because he was the one that suggested to me that I should look into joining a networking group. And he had suggested that to me like prior to me even going to Kansas. And one of the first things I did in Kansas, join a networking group. Got a ton of my business from that. One of the first things I did when I got back, I joined a networking group. And Business Networking Internationals, it was the one I chose, and they're all over the country. And I found a group locally here, and that I was able to start the foundation of building relationships, centers of influence, and strategic partnerships. Because in that group, there was a real estate agents, there was mortgage lenders, there was a home inspector, there was an insurance agent that was in there, and a few others that I've been able to connect with. And to this day, I'm still friends with them, a few of them years and years later. And that was a catalyst to helping us grow our business without spending a ton of money on marketing. So I'm going to circle back on that because yes, I joined a networking group, and I would highly recommend anybody who's starting a business to do that. Find a networking group and start building your network, because as a roofing contractor, if you're going to be local and you're going to be here for a long time, a lot of people need to know who you are. A lot of people need to know that you do a good job, and they need to know that you care and that you're going to execute and that you're going to be around for a while. And relationships is key. You're not just going to be able to paint that picture with just one single ad marketing. So built a network with that was my first kind of network with my insurance agent, in that networking group. And since then he's become a regional guy and become, connected me with a ton of other insurance agents in the market. And we've really pushed and grown off that. That's become a huge catalyst. But the first $1 million, I don't want to get too far ahead in the story because we're going to talk about more of that later. Built that relationship there, started getting some business from my networking group, was able to leverage some personal relationships to build a little 5-person sales team. And we knocked doors, and we found a radio station. So marketing, we're talking about how we had $1 million. We had to figure out how to do it. I knew, that the canvassing was a path of least resistance, knocking doors, but everyone does that. I hated it, but I knew I had to do it. So I did what I had to do to build my business. Joined the networking group, started getting some business that way. And then, we're a faith-based company. I talk about that stuff a lot in my faith journey throughout this whole process. And there's a local radio station that's a Christian radio station that I figured out that was a nonprofit, and they were much cheaper than some of the other radio stations out there. And they had a smaller, but very, dedicated and loyal listening audience. So we decided, let's start. It was not that expensive. Let's start running some ads there. 10 years later, we're still running ads on that same station. And we didn't, I mean, it wasn't like gangbusters, but we got started getting a couple leads here and there from that station and really starting to build a reputation on there. And they'd hear us over and over. And that was a good way to start generating some leads as well. But we still weren't getting a ton of organic leads. It was, you got to go hustle, eat what you kill, knock doors, networking group, and this started getting some ads. We ran a bunch of random, community pages and $300 here, $500 there, trying to do some more, some localized ads in different magazines and whatnot. And you get a couple leads here and there, nothing great. And here's the thing. I also tried to do what's now not like the Angie's List and the, some of those pay as you go type of advertising type marketing companies. And I tried to get in with them and I couldn't because they did a background check and I had just come out of a bankruptcy. So I couldn't use like an Angie or any one of those, companies out there like a House or whatever, because they wouldn't allow me because I didn't pass that background check because I was too recently removed. So couldn't do it. Home Advisor, that was the company. They changed their name, but at the time it was called Home Advisor. And I couldn't even get in with them. I tried to. I wanted to, so to this day, I still want to visit them. But I digress on that. I couldn't do that. So that didn't work. We didn't do that. But networking was huge. And as we were knocking doors and really trying to like bang our head against the wall, we're like, everybody's doing this. A little bit of storm happened. We're able to somehow generate enough business to break that $1 million barrier in that first full year. So with the storm, knocking doors, a networking group, a couple employees, one service technician and a couple employees on staff, one person kind of running production a little bit as well. That's what it took for us, to break the $1 million barrier. So we were able to get to 1.4 million in our first year in sales. And, but the reality of it is, because I had the overhead I had and the people that I had, that still wasn't, we didn't put a ton of money into the bottom line. I didn't put a ton of money in my pocket. I did get the wedding ring. She did say yes. We've been married, happily married for many years, 11 years now. That was 14, 15 years ago. But we learned a lot, and we learned tenacity. We learned that we had to go knock doors. We learned that we had to network ourselves. We learned that we had to, get outside our comfort zone. We need to learn how to make strategic decisions. Some of them tough. We had to make some physical sacrifices, but that's what it took to get to that first $1 million in our very first year. And we did 1.4 in our first full year in business. And we're grateful for that. But that was kind of the catalyst that then set us up to then grow and rinse and repeat. And as I finish this up, this part of the story, one of the key takeaways, and I talked about this in the beginning as well, was the fact that I brought on someone that was really good in the areas that I'm not, with my partner and with my office manager, my mom at the time, and even Bree, who's my sister, who was working her way up in the business and just doing administrative tasks still at this point. They had a mindset of creating systems and processes. And they, especially driven by mom. I mean, Debbie, she was the catalyst here, and she started creating systems and processes for everything we did. So anytime she had to do something multiple times, she just wrote down a list and created a procedure and was like, well, this is what we're going to do. And when she hired my sister, guess what? She used those procedures to then use those written procedures to then start training my sister. And that at its core foundation, what started what has become everything we do now with the Roofing Academy and all the things. So my encouragement to you to sell $1 million, you've got to go out and hustle. You've got to make it happen. You've got to knock doors. You've got to network yourself. Everyone in your community, everyone in your social network needs to know what you're doing, needs to know you're selling roofs, needs to know your ambition, needs to know your vision. And you need to rally as many people as you can around you to help you get to that first $1 million. It's a rite of passage. It's just pure hustle, pure grit, make it happen. You're not going to have it all figured out. You're not going to have all the systems figured out. You're not going to have everything. If you decide to work with me in Roofing Academy, you're going to have a lot of that foundation built ahead of time for you, which is great, but you still got to put in the work. You still got to hustle. You still got to make it happen. But everything you do look at it from an opportunistic perspective of creating a process that you can rinse and repeat and do it again. Because if you can duplicate yourself, if you can duplicate your processes, if you can duplicate your systems, you can duplicate your people, you can build and grow your business. So if it's repeatable, duplicatable, and trainable, write it down, create a procedure, execute it, and that's going to be a foundation for growth for your business. So that's the story of what it took for us to go out and sell $1 million in business. You know, we one of the things we did throughout that period as well was we rented an office, and we got our first lease. That was a tricky thing, but we had an office, and that's what we knew. If we had an office, then we can start kind of building our internet or media or our marketing and our website and that sort of thing around that. You start generating leads that way. We didn't during that first year, but we did have an office, and that was key to have that physical location for us. And not everybody does that nowadays. You can be digital, but I knew I wanted an office. I knew I wanted a workspace. I wanted a warehouse. I wanted to be able to have trucks and really think about this as a, you know, multifaceted roofing company. But I talked a little bit earlier about one of the biggest mistakes we made, and I'm going to leave you with this. I went cheap and I hired a buddy of a buddy to build us a website. What I didn't realize is that I did not own the domain of that website. And this person who had built the website, who was managing the website, ghosted us. He just disappeared. Couldn't get a hold of him, didn't know what happened to him. And the website started messing up, and we couldn't get, you know, the information. It wasn't working very well. We weren't getting recognized. Our SEO wasn't in place. There was so much wrong with it that we ultimately had to completely scrap the idea about a year and a half into it and start completely fresh. So everything that we put our energy into to work on the website was for nothing. So what I learned was, one, own your domain. You must own your website. You must own your domain, have control over your marketing in that. And then two, be willing to invest a little bit and have a great marketing partner. And what we were blessed to do in that case was, at the time I just got married, and my business partner, he had just gotten married as well. And his wife was a marketing expert. At the time, she was working for a corporate company as their marketing director. And as she kind of transitioned out of that and worked for a couple of different companies, she started kind of part-time helping us a little bit. But ultimately, she created a marketing company, and we became a client of hers. And to this day, we have an incredible website with some amazing reviews. And that's one of the, you know, outside of our referral program and vendor partners, that's our biggest driver of business, is our website and our online presence. So invest early in your business, build a great website, at least a good landing page, and make sure it's done properly. Your SEO is done properly, and you have a great marketing partner. Big mistake. Had to completely scratch all of that. Had no marketing presence when we did that, and we had to rebuild everything. And then fast forward a few years, which I'll probably touch more on down the road as we continue along this story. We were able to buy that original domain back once it got released, but because you can only own a domain for so long, you have to renew it every year. And this person that disappeared on us ended up not renewing it. So I was able to buy that domain again years down the road, but it was a lot easier process after the fact because we had built a better foundation. So invest in your marketing, invest in your website, make sure you have a great partner to help you with that, because that's vitally important. And it's something that's going to pay itself year over year over year. It's not going to get you your first $1 million, but it's going to lay a foundation that's going to help you multiply and get to your second, third, fourth, fifth, $10 million. So hopefully you learned a little something from this. I wanted to just share the story and kind of try to recap as much as I can. So I was probably all over the place a little bit, but hopefully there's some takeaways for you. I appreciate you listening. If you've got some value to this, please like, share, you know, the YouTube algorithms and stuff. Like it when people like and comment and share these videos out. So if you're listening to this, or if you're listening to the podcast, please, you know, make sure to subscribe, check out some of our other shows. We've done 250 something episodes. So make sure to check out some of the other content. Usually we have amazing guests. We're sharing their stories. This is a special series we're doing where I'm sharing my story. So thank you so much for listening. Take care, everybody. Like, subscribe, comment, reach out to me. I'd love to connect with you. TheRoofingAcademy.com is a great place to check out a lot of our content and see a lot of things we do. And if you are starting a roofing company, you're building a roofing company, you're in that first $1 million, $3 million, $2 million, wherever you are on your journey, we would love to come alongside you, myself and my team of coaches, we've built an incredible curriculum, like the most comprehensive coaching program between our online courses, our digital document vaults, as well as our amazing one-on-one coaching team and coaching, and the culture and the live events that we do. It's an incredible community, and we're here to support you and walk alongside you on your journey. If that interests you, if you'd like to connect further and talk more about how to implement systems and processes and help exponentially grow your business and expedite the process, give me a shout. Let's chat. Let's book a call. Go to my website and you can click that link that allows you to book a call with me. I'd love to talk to you. So take care, everybody. God bless.